I saved a black snake when I was a child. As an adult, to repay my kindness, he transformed into a human and married me, until I overheard the scorpion spirit whispering to him that killing me could cure his heart disease. Bastard, that's nothing but alarmist nonsense. So I grabbed the black snake by its tail on the spot, using it like a whip, and fiercely lashed the scorpion demon's mouth. The black snake wailed like a screaming kettle that had gained sentience. Wifey, 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 put me down. Listen to me, I can bite him, I can bite him, I really can bite him. That year when I was 8, days of relentless rain flooded the village's road to town. My younger brother had a high fever, so my parents sent me into the mountains with a basket to gather herbs. A small black snake, covered in wounds, was curled up in the grass. The rain had soaked its injuries until they turned pale, and a scale was missing from the tip of its tail. Its little black eyes were utterly adorable. Though it looked listless, staring at me blankly, it seems to understand human nature, so I casually used a branch to move it to a spot sheltered from the rain and sprinkled some white medicine on it. That very night, I had a dream. Amid a sea of flowers covering the mountains and fields stood a delicate and beautiful young boy with a teardrop mole under his eye. He was quietly gazing at me. A black tail stealthily extended from behind, its tip missing a scale. It slowly reached toward me, then presented a cute little flower that swayed gently. Surprised, I took it and accidentally touched the cool, soft scales. The tail seemed to shrink back shyly, suddenly retreating behind its owner. The young boy's ears turned a faint shade of pink as he smiled at me and stammered, "I like you, may we get married?" I frowned. It's not very proper to propose marriage upon first meeting. His face instantly flushed red, tears welling up in his eyes. "I can protect you, help you with anything, and even share half of my lifespan with you. So quick to cry, no wonder there's a teardrop mole beneath your eyelid." I shook my head and turned to leave. He got flustered and, with a bang, transformed into a small black snake that shimmered with iridescent colors. "You saved me, I just want to stay with you." With that, he started spitting out gold from his mouth. The gold glittered brightly, quickly piling up into a small hill. He wrapped around my wrist, nuzzling his head gently against my palm. "Everything I have is yours." I chuckled and patted him, then crouched down to eagerly gather the gold. "Hey, how do you want to get married?" The black snake showed no reaction. He turned pink with excitement and fainted from joy. I thought it was just a dream. Little did I know, when I woke up, there was actually a pile of gold before my eyes. Not only the golden toad can spit gold coins, but also the black snake. I pinched myself hard. It wasn't a dream. Excitedly, I showed the gold to my dad, only to be met with a heavy slap across the face. "Shame on you for not learning to be good, you thieving little brat. Where did you steal this from?" I tried to explain, but another slap followed, leaving me dizzy and my mouth filled with the taste of blood. My mother took the gold, bit it with her teeth, and then gleefully tucked it into her pocket. "Grass. After all, this thing's origin is unclear. I'll keep it for you first." In the middle of the night, the pain kept me awake, so I groped my way to the yard and overheard her discussing with my dad in the inner room. "You shouldn't have hit grass during the day." I pressed my face against the door, and a dim, yellowish light seeped out, carrying a hint of warmth. "Tell her to steal more next time. If anyone comes knocking, we'll just deny it. Beat her to death if you have to. The owner will probably give up, afraid of causing a death. With the gold we've saved up, we can finish building the house, and it'll be enough for our precious to marry a wife too." Numb eyes lost their last glimmer of light. Tears flowed to the corner of my lips, and I tasted them. They were bitter. The black snake seemed like just a dream I had. When I woke up, no one believed it was real. My parents built a new house with gold and moved in with my younger brother. There was no room for me in that home. They gave me a choice: either stay in the old house or live in the pig pen of the new one. So I ended up living alone in the old house. I just never expected that after I grew up, this black snake would actually come knocking at my door. He bashfully knocked on my door, saying he had come to marry me. I looked at his face, as beautiful as the one from my dream many years ago. The thought of marrying a snake made me feel a bit uneasy inside. His head drooped down in an instant, looking aggrieved and on the verge of shedding little tears. "Tongue flowers, you promised to marry me." His hand brushed past his trouser pocket as if by accident, and several large gold nuggets immediately slipped through his fingers. With immense enthusiasm, I closed the door, took his hand, and pulled him into the room. Okay, let's get married. We must get married. The black snake happily rested its head on my shoulder, its tail slithering out to wrap around my waist, and so, just like that, I ended up keeping him at home, inexplicably starting a cohabitation life with a black snake. At first, I was still somewhat wary of Louis, but over time, Louis became like the snail girl from folklore, clinging to me every day and sweetly calling me wifey. At first, I told him to stop, but he'd pout on the verge of tears, looking at me with puppy dog eyes. Eventually, I just let him have his way. Every day when I came home, my favorite dishes would be waiting on the table. He would also give me massages, gently blow-drying my hair after I finished showering. Snakes are cold-blooded creatures. Every night before bed, I complained that his body was too cold, so he would run to the fire to warm himself up, then transform into a little black snake and climb onto my bed, coiling into a warm ball and nestling in my arms to sleep. I accidentally reached out and touched him, noticing his tail was slightly singed, so I scolded him with a hint of heartache. Don't sleep in my arms anymore from now on. Louis lowered his head, his fluffy bangs obediently drooping down. He muttered softly, somewhat sadly, I'll change whatever you don't like, just don't send me away, okay? I reached out and wrapped my arms around his waist. Louis had a clean scent, a mix of sunlight and fresh grass. He showed me what it feels like to be liked by someone, something I'd never experienced before. I looked up and pinched his incredibly soft cheek. Idiot. You can take human form. His face visibly reddened, even his ears burning hot. I rarely had mischievous thoughts, but I couldn't resist teasing him. I heard snakes have two of those things. If you turned human, would you still? Louis, flustered and angry, pulled me into his arms and covered my mouth. His face and mine were both flushed red. I reached out to tickle him, forcing him to let go of me. Louis grabbed my flailing hands, stared into my eyes, and slowly shifted his gaze to my lips. The atmosphere grew somewhat intimate when suddenly, a knock sounded at the door. I opened the door and saw it was my brother, Precious. My brother and I were originally twins. On the day we were born, the village flooded, drowning several livestock. The village shamaness, wielding a sharp tool, hung a sacred banner in front of our house. She said twins were ominous, and one of them would surely bring disaster to the family. My parents initially planned to secretly strangle me, but later, seeing that a daughter from the neighboring village fetched a dowry of 100,000, they decided to keep me. Precious whistled with a roguish air. The moment I opened the door, he immediately grew somewhat impatient. What's taking you so long? You're not hiding a man in there, are you? He craned his neck to peek inside, pushed past me, and began inspecting the room. Louis had already transformed into a small black snake, quietly retreating into the box. Precious didn't change into slippers, just plopped onto a chair and propped his legs up on the coffee table. The muddy shoes left dirty footprints on the clean floor. I frowned. This was the result of Black Snake's hard work mopping all morning. So I stepped forward and yanked him up. Disgusting. Clean this up right now. Precious smiled at me nonchalantly. Sis, I haven't even gotten to the main point yet. Do you have any money? Lend me some. I swatted his hand away. Where would I get money? His eyes rolled around, and he grinned. Sis, if I hadn't given you the opportunity, how could you have become a college student? Is it too much to ask for some reward? Countless nights, I wrapped myself in a cotton coat and studied under the dim streetlights, just because they think I waste electricity. The hard wooden bed made my back ache, and my hands, covered in chilblains, were numb from the cold. I've come this far not because someone gave me an opportunity, but entirely through my own sheer courage. At this thought, I reached out and shoved Precious. Get out, get the hell out of here. Having done farm work since childhood, my hands were strong, but the disparity in strength between men and women was undeniable. Precious forcefully shoved me away and raised her hand to strike me. Don't push your luck when given face, Mom and Dad both said. All your money is mine, and the bride price when you get married will be mine too. A black snake darted up his arm, its adorable beady eyes now filled with murderous intent. A crimson forked tongue flickered, and its fangs sank deep into his arm. Precious let out a piercing scream. He frantically swung his arm trying to fling the black snake away, but it clung tightly with its fangs. refusing to let go. So he smashed his arm hard against the wall, worried that Louis might get hurt. I grabbed a chair and swung it at Precious's head. With a loud thud, Precious was knocked unconscious by my blow, their bulky body collapsing to the ground. The black snake was violently flung away. I quickly picked it up to check. Several scales were broken, revealing streaks of blood, and it still didn't respond after I called out a few times. My nose stung with tears. I didn't cry when my parents beat me, nor when I was locked in a dark room and starved. I've always known that crying can't solve anything, but right now, tears are streaming down uncontrollably. The black snake weakly opens its eyes. Don't cry, I'm fine. He rubbed his head against my palm, then weakly let it droop. I held him carefully in my hands. Aren't monsters supposed to be powerful? Sob. Why are you so weak? The tip of his black tail coiled around my wrist. I'm not a monster, I'm the mountain god. My eyes widened in disbelief, unable to comprehend how he could be the mountain god. Louis used the tip of his tail to wipe away my tears, telling me to give him the spirit herb. He'd be fine after some sleep. With that, he passed out again. I hurried to the small box to look for medicine. This carved little box was usually his prized possession, yet I managed to dig out many strange things from it. 2 clay figurines, upon closer inspection, turned out to resemble him and me. A small wooden snake carving, a small jade pendant carved with paulownia flowers. Setting aside these miscellaneous trinkets, I finally found a hand-drawn ancient book at the bottom. He said the spirit herb was tucked inside it. I opened the book, and the first page turned out to be about human anatomy. There's a line of small text above. Snakes under 500 years old are prohibited from viewing. Good thing I'm not a snake. Should be fine to take a look, right? As I flipped further, the techniques grew increasingly numerous, leaving me flushed with embarrassment. I fed the medicine to the black snake. The ancient text stated that in a weakened state, the mountain god cannot take form and requires finding the clay-sculpted true body. To help him recover better, I tucked the black snake into my embrace. I kicked aside Precious, who was lying unconscious in the middle of the road like a dead pig. Then I hurried up the mountain to find that long-abandoned mountain god temple. At times like these, I'm quite grateful to feel as if I were possessed by spirit, brimming with courage. After all, not many people can tolerate living with a black snake to this extent. Moonlight filters through the trees, sparse as remnants of snow. The outer walls of the mountain temple are dilapidated, appearing rarely visited, with dwindling incense offerings. Inside, it wasn't as one might imagine, covered in cobwebs and dust, but rather clean and tidy. The black snake regained some energy, transforming into a handsome youth who sat beneath the clay statue with his eyes closed. I secretly looked up to examine it. The face of the clay statue did indeed resemble his greatly, though it appeared somewhat younger. He looked almost exactly the same as when he first appeared in my dreams during my childhood. Could he have already been the mountain god back then? Moonlight streamed in as I sat beside the black serpent, lost in thought without realizing it. Big brother, in the silent night. An excited shout pierced the air. A thin, small dark figure emerged outside the window. I was so startled I nearly toppled off the shrine. The black snake reacted swiftly, steadying me with a firm grip. He lifted his eyelids and glared coldly at the dark figure. You scared my wife. This demeanor was completely different from the cute and gentle black snake in his memory. Outside the window, the dark figure pouted in grievance. Big bro, open the door. It's me, your little bro. With a flick of Louis's finger, the youth who pushed the door open turned into a scorpion with a thud. I've grown accustomed to the daily sight of a black snake transforming into a handsome man. A youth turning into a scorpion isn't that surprising either. He raised his 2 pincers, wobbling as he tried to climb onto Louis's arm. Louis extended a finger to push the scorpion away and smiled at me. His name is Jack, my little underling. After working half the night, I was starting to feel a bit thirsty. There's a small stream in the backyard. I went there to drink some water and thought of bringing some back for the black snake. After walking a few steps back, I heard the scorpion demon's complaining voice. Boss, why did you get yourself injured again for her? The black snake's voice was colder and sharper than I'd ever heard before. Who asked for your opinion? Seems like you don't want your tongue anymore. He and the black serpent these days seem like 2 completely different people. I peeked inside quietly. Louis had already transformed from a youth into his black serpent form, with the scorpion demon treating his wounds. I heard the scorpion demon sigh heavily. The mountain god's restriction cannot be lifted, the heart ailment truly cannot be delayed any longer, since we found the destined one. Isn't it said that exchanging hearts will suffice? She's right here now. Isn't this a sure thing? The black serpent shoved the scorpion spirit aside in a rage. Shut up. I may not be clever, but I'm certainly not stupid. Hearing these explanations made my blood boil. This so-called marriage might just be a scam. The black snake approaching me must have ulterior motives. I recalled reading in ancient texts that mountain gods who harm mortals would inevitably suffer backlash. He can't do anything to me, so he must be trying to deceive me emotionally. At this thought, a surge of malice rose within me. I pushed the door open, grabbed the black snake by its tail, and started wildly slapping the scorpion demon's face with it. The black snake whipped through the air like a fierce lash in my hands. Exchange hearts with hearts, easy as pie. Think you've got me all figured out, huh? I'll show you what figured out means. The scorpion demon howled in pain as I whipped him, scurrying away with its head in its hands. His tears gushed down, carving a tiny stream into the ground. Someone's bullying the scorpion. Boo-hoo, boss, do something about her. The black snake, seeing me angry, cried like a teakettle that had gained sentience. Darling, 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 put me down, listen to me. Listen to me, I can bite him, I can bite him, I really can bite him, he cried pitifully, but in reality, it was all thunder and no rain. This guy is always good at pretending to be pitiful to soften my heart. The scorpion demon cried more genuinely than him. I let go, my face cold. You've hidden so much from me, I hate liars the most. Who's your wife? I won't be any more. The scorpion demon cowered in the corner, not daring to breathe. Or perhaps it was still dazed from my beating and needed time to recover. From the very beginning, the black serpent had kept many things hidden from me. He always treated me with tender affection, playing the fool and acting naive. But tonight, I caught a glimpse of a completely unfamiliar side of him. What the eyes see and the ears hear may all be illusions. When I was a child, I once raised a rabbit, a gift from the old lady next door. After raising it for a while, I developed feelings for it. My father tricked me into going to the street, saying he would buy me candied hawthorns. Back then, I was young, greedy, and didn't yet understand lies and deceit. By the time we got home, that rabbit had already been turned into a dish on the table by my mother. Precious's greasy mouth spat out bare bones. I screamed and rushed over, only to be slapped hard and kicked away. Young Precious waved the rabbit leg in her hand, shouting incoherently, "It's all mine, don't you dare take it from me." My parents laughed playfully as they watched me scream and cry. It's just a rabbit. Is it really that big of a deal? Just for a rabbit, she's acting like this. There's no way we can count on her to take care of us when we're old. Right in front of me, they devoured that rabbit completely. I was depressed for a long, long time. Later, on the way home from school, there appeared an adorable little rabbit. It followed me cautiously, as if wanting to come home with me. Even though I could tell it really wanted me to stop and pet it, but I never looked at it again, not even a glance. Fearing loss, I gave up possession. I need time to confirm now. If Black Snake really deceived me to steal my heart, I will never forgive him. The sky is gradually brightening. I turned around and walked out of the mountain god temple. The Black Snake followed behind me silently, looking pitiful. I demand an explanation, but he didn't seem willing to confess honestly and tell me the truth. So I turned around and warned him coldly, "Don't follow me, or I'll beat you up." The scorpion demon peeked out from behind, covering its face and sneaking glances at us through its fingers. I waved my fist. "What are you looking at? Keep staring and I'll beat you up too." The scorpion quickly retreated. The Black Snake lowered its head and didn't follow anymore. Exhausted, I opened the door to find Precious already gone. The house looked as if it had been ransacked by thieves. I hurried to check the Black Snake's box. Whether due to a restriction or because the items inside didn't seem very valuable, everything was still there. Looking at the ransacked house, a bad premonition surged in my heart. I went to the bedroom and saw that the locked drawer had been pried open. I quickly reached in to feel around. Empty. All the passbooks and bank cards I had saved up, including the few small gold pieces Black Snake gave me, were gone. I was so furious that I felt dizzy and almost couldn't catch my breath, as if I were about to vomit blood. That was my tuition. I must go to university and escape from this mountain village for good. Precious is such a beast, even stealing my tuition money, without caring that I hadn't slept all night. I rushed to their new house and started banging on the door. My mother opened the door, bleary-eyed and yawning. Seeing it was me, a flash of guilt quickly crossed her face, followed by a sharp, angry expression. Damn girl, knocking like you're summoning spirits this early in the morning. What are you knocking for? I directly reached out my hand. Give me back the money Precious stole. She rolled her eyes. What money? I didn't see any. That wretched girl hid money behind our backs. Whoever finds it keeps it. Furious, I shoved past her and barged into the house. Won't admit it. I'll find it myself. My mother got anxious and blocked half the doorway to stop me from entering. My father also came over to back her up. What if Precious took it? Everything of yours is ours. Keep arguing and I'll slap you to death. He raised his palm, as big as a cattail leaf fan, ready to strike my face. Seeing I was outnumbered, I ducked behind my mother. The slap landed on the doorframe with a sound that set teeth on edge. I hunched my shoulders and ran. Won't give it back. The amount's enough to file a case. Wait till I call the cops on you. When I got home, I packed my things and prepared to go to the town to report the case. Unexpectedly, my parents came to return the money, dragging Precious by the ear. They forced a smile. This time it was Precious's fault. Here's your money back, and he won't dare to do it again. Precious's face was swollen like a pig's head, covered in bruises. Looking as if she had been brutally beaten, I took the passbook, counted the gold, and found none missing. With a bang, I slammed the door shut. Hearing the three idiots immediately change their tone from behind the door. That little bitch has grown some nerve, daring to give us attitude. Precious was sobbing uncontrollably. Dad, Mom, stop talking, I'm scared. That scary man might come back to beat me again. My hand counting the money paused for a moment. Seems like someone helped teach them a lesson. The outside fell into silence. I sighed. Come out, I know you're here. Louis appeared out of thin air before me, his face slightly pale. His hair was slicked back, and at first glance, his outfit somewhat resembled that of a gangster boss. Beneath his black cuffs was a serpentine tattoo, looking utterly menacing. A scorpion spirit perched on his shoulder, its raised tail tip holding up a small card. Already behaved, begging for mercy. Its beady eyes were filled with longing, almost to the point of tears. I'm struggling hard to hold back my laughter. The black serpent, as if having done something wrong, cautiously watches my expression. I clear my throat lightly, and in an instant, he hands me a bowl of pear soup. His expression looks terrible, and I can't help but feel concerned. Are you still not feeling well? I spoke to him, and a flicker of delight crossed Louis's face. I'm fine. The scorpion spirit Jack couldn't help but chime in to add, right, at most endure the heart-wrenching pain. It won't kill me anyway. Louis immediately shot him a, do you have a death wish? Look, I stopped him. Never mind, don't be so harsh on him. I couldn't resist poking the scorpion demon. Jack immediately crawled up my shoulder along Louis's arm. He was grinning, wearing the smug expression of a petty villain. I began to press for answers. Tell me, what exactly is going on with your boss's heart condition and the divine punishment? The scorpion demon's face fell, sneaking glances at Louis. I tapped his little head. Don't look at him, speak. Jack's beady eyes darted around restlessly. 500 years ago, the boss suffered heart meridian damage for the sake of a mortal. That's all I know, really. As soon as the words were spoken, Louis suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed to the ground. Transforming into a black snake, I quickly scooped him up, while the scorpion demon was so frightened it reverted to human form. Nearly in tears, I grabbed him and shook him hard. What's wrong with him? Think of something quick. Jack's eyes welled up with tears. He must have tried to teach that guy a lesson, and the backlash from the restriction triggered his heart condition. I asked him if there was any way to save Louis. His eyes were clear, brimming with foolishness. He said it should be written in the ancient texts, but he couldn't read. I pulled out the ancient texts and flipped through them, finding the page with the answer. My entire face burned red with heat. Heart disease can only be alleviated, not cured. The scorpion spirit and I helped Louis to the clay statue in the mountain temple. He absorbed some spiritual energy and gradually returned to human form. However, his entire body was almost transparently pale, and his eyes had turned a light golden color. He glanced at me weakly before sinking back into a dazed slumber on the bed. The scorpion demon quietly closed the door behind her as she left. I quickly climbed onto the bed and, with my eyes shut, began stripping Louis of his clothes. Then it occurred to me, since I'd need to wipe him down anyway, would it really matter if I opened my eyes for a look? The frail Louis opened his eyes, his mind still a bit hazy. You don't like snakes. You only like that stupid rabbit. Why don't you want me? I turned into a rabbit later too. My hands, which were unbuttoning his clothes, froze. Could it be that the rabbit blocking the road when I was a child was him in disguise? Then why on earth did he do that? I was just about to press further. Louis's gaze grew distant as he stubbornly grabbed my wrist. Only my wife is allowed to take off my clothes. Are you, my wife? Sometimes I really suspect you're doing this on purpose. He held on so tightly that I struggled for a long time but couldn't break free, so I had no choice but to admit defeat. Yes, I am your wife, Louis asked warily. Then what's your name? I wiped his forehead. Tongue Flowers. My name is Tongue Flowers. He sat up, his mind still a bit hazy, and pressed his face against the crook of my neck. That's right, Tongue Flowers is my wife. My heart felt all warm and fuzzy, actually. When I was just a few years old, I was terrified of snakes. Back then, my parents often sent me up the mountain to herd cattle and gather pigweed. This creature lurks in the dark grass, with venomous eyes and a flickering forked tongue, cold, damp, and slimy. It bares its fangs and strikes at you without warning, but Louis never made me feel that way. If he hadn't told me he was a snake the first time we met, I might have thought he was a puppy, after who knows how long. The black snake regained a bit of consciousness. He lay on my shoulder, chuckling quietly. Tongue Flowers, you admitted with your own words that you're my wife, so you can't go back on it later. I couldn't help but flick his forehead. Stop the nonsense. Are you feeling better now? Louis reached out to hug me. Of course, I'm completely fine now. Perhaps my skepticism was written all over my face, clearly showing disbelief. He tightened his arms, holding me even closer. 500 years ago, I was the most powerful mountain god. I reached out to cool the boiled herbal medicine, spoon-feeding it into his mouth. Then when you're better, tell me more about your past. I admit, developing affection for someone inevitably brings curiosity along with it. In the past, my mind was solely focused on studying relentlessly to escape the mountains. I never felt curious about any member of the opposite sex around me. But now, I really want to know the story that happened to Louis. I'm not smart, nor am I particularly pretty. It was Louis who always told me that ordinary girls are also worthy of love. The pitch-black herbal soup, so dark you couldn't see the bottom of the bowl, looked bitter enough to make your tongue shrivel. Even if Louis isn't human, he can't escape this ordeal. He scrunched up his face, looking pitiful. It's too bitter. Can I not drink it? I stiffened my expression, remaining impassive. No. The black serpent then curled into a mischievous smile. I sensed the ill intent behind that expression and tried to flee, but he pulled me close, cupped my face, and planted a loud kiss on my lips. His eyes sparkled brightly. It's not bitter anymore. While I was still in a daze, he pushed his luck and leaned closer. Could you give me a kiss for every sip I take? The lamp by the window crackled softly. I hear the sound of two hearts pounding. The flickering candlelight casts two shadows drawing closer by the window. His face is slightly flushed, eyes closed, lashes like butterflies ready to take flight. Moonlight filters through the pale blue bed curtains, fingers intertwined, breaths mingled, lips and teeth entwined. A room filled with tender affection. Louis stayed at the mountain temple to recuperate from his injuries, and we were temporarily separated. That day, I wanted to go up the mountain to see him, walking through the quiet path. Someone suddenly jumped out from behind a large tree and struck the back of my head with a stick. A sharp pain shot through me. I fell to the ground, instinctively reaching up to touch the spot. My hand was covered in sticky blood. Just as I was about to scream for help, another blow landed on my forehead. Darkness filled my vision, and before losing consciousness, I saw Precious's icy gaze. When I woke up again, my hands and feet were tightly bound. My mother's excited voice reached my ears. 100,000 betrothal gifts, not a penny less. My father puffed on his dry tobacco, the pipe knocking loudly. My daughter is the only college graduate in the whole village. Any children she bears will be smart. By the bed stood a stooped old man, His yellow teeth were bared as he stared at me, drooling. Precious stood nearby, rubbing his hands like a fly, his eyes filled with greed. Uncle, whether I can get a wife or not depends on you now. The wound on my head still ached. And I was so angry I saw stars. It seems they've sold me out, all for 100,000 yuan in bride price. The old bachelor reached out with a lecherous look, trying to touch my face. With my feet tied together, I did a sudden sit-up and kicked him square in the chest with both feet. The old man let out a pitiful "I-oh" as he collapsed to the ground. An old tooth fell out of my mouth, and blood gurgled down from my lips to my chin. The three people beside me roared in fury. My father slapped me to the ground, while my mother pinned me down tightly, leaving me unable to move. After raising you for so many years, you worthless burden, you want to ruin our family's legacy. Precious's eyes were red, looking utterly furious. He grabbed a nearby shoulder pole and struck me hard with it. Bitch, bitch, even the old bachelor couldn't stand it anymore and pulled them apart. Stop hitting. If you ruin his face, I won't give you a single cent. They stopped, panting heavily. The agreed 100,000 can't be a penny less. My mother laughed, her wrinkles showing. She's fertile like me, sure to bear a son at once, maybe even twins. I lay there, barely alive, every part of me in pain. Blood flowed into my eyes, turning my entire vision into a blinding red. Precious tugged at my hair, giggling, calling that wild man you found before to beat me up so badly. Serves you right for getting hit. My dad looked somewhat worried. That man won't come back for revenge. Will he? Precious waved her hand dismissively. I've been staking out her doorstep for over 10 days, and that man hasn't shown his face once. He must have dumped her. My mother's eyes turned sharp at these words, and she slapped me again. Slut, giving it away to other men for free. She then lowered her voice. First, let's get the 100,000 in hand, or else he'll find out and deduct another few thousand. The old bachelor had just gone out to wash the blood off his face. In front of the others, his filthy hand reached toward my chest. A lecherous smile gleamed in his eyes. Tonight this old man's gonna be a groom. Ha ha ha. Countless escape plans, each with a slim chance of success. I felt somewhat desperate, thinking that as a last resort, I could always try to bite him to death. At worst, we'd perish together. If I were to die, Louis would probably be very sad. Tears slowly soaked into the lashes. That disgusting hand froze midair. A jade-like hand clenched it tightly. Louis appeared in the room out of nowhere. A towering rage spread through his eyes, revealing a bloodthirsty fury. A crisp sound rang out. That hand bent downward at an unnatural angle, already broken. The old bachelor let out an inhuman scream, crying and begging for mercy, only to have his throat seized again, forcing the sound back down. Fingers gently brushed over my scars. The wounds on my body are slowly healing. Louis turned to look at the other three. His golden vertical pupils radiating intimidation. My parents trembled like sieves, their eyes filled with fear. A foul smell of urine spread through the room. Precious's legs gave way, and she collapsed to the ground, utterly terrified. Why you? Are you human or a ghost? Louis opened his mouth, his tongue transforming into a slender, forked snake's tongue. With a couple of hiss sounds, my mom's eyes rolled back, and she fainted from sheer fright. My father turned to flee, but one of his legs snapped, leaving him collapsed on the ground, howling in pain. Which hand did you use to hit her? Precious wanted to faint but couldn't, her tongue stiff and unable to speak. Louis smiled cruelly. Understood, 2 hands it is. The next moment, Precious's arms were severed at the elbows. The white bone stumps were exposed. He passed out from the pain on the spot, unsure if he was dead or not. My mother had just regained some consciousness when she saw this scene. She wanted to rush over and hit me but didn't dare. What did you do to your brother? I should have strangled you back then. I never should have given birth to a bitch like you. The voice was cut off. She was turned mute by Louis and could never speak again. Louis dealt with the room full of trash. I watched it all numbly. If relatives were optional, I wouldn't have chosen to be born into this family either. Thinking of something, I anxiously looked at Louis. Isn't it forbidden to use magic on mortals? Doing this, your body? He gazed at me with affection, his pale face slightly sweating. The next moment, large amounts of black blood gushed out from his mouth. I scrambled over, and he collapsed heavily onto me. Blood kept gushing from his mouth, soaking my sleeves. Louis's eyes were tightly shut, his face as pale as paper, his teeth clenched as his black hair gradually turned white. My icy tears fell on his face as he struggled to lift his gaze to look at me. Don't cry, I'm fine. 500 years ago, I was the most powerful mountain god. I desperately grabbed his hand. His body was slowly turning transparent. When the scorpion demon appeared, Louis had already lost consciousness. He wailed loudly as he placed a lotus pedestal into my palm. The boss didn't want you to take the risk and never allowed me to tell you. There's another way to save him. By going back 500 years, I slit my palm, and a large amount of blood flowed into the lotus pedestal. The scorpion spirit channeled her spiritual power, and I immediately fainted. Before my eyes was a vast expanse of white, snowflakes swirling everywhere. A frail little girl was carrying a huge bundle of firewood on her back. She wore thin, coarse linen clothes. Shivering from the cold, not far away, at the village entrance, people were pointing and whispering, "Monica is truly heartless, making her daughter gather firewood in the dead of winter." I hovered nearby, as if no one could see me. I quietly reached out to help lift the little girl's firewood a bit, and she seemed to sense the weight lighten. Puzzled, she turned to look, revealing a face identical to mine. Could it be that this is me from 500 years ago? I froze instinctively. And the little girl's footsteps halted. A small black snake coiled its tail around her ankle, on the verge of death, nearly frozen stiff. It was calling for help. Snakes are supposed to hibernate, but this one might have been too weak and had its nest taken by others of its kind. Even though the little girl was shivering and turning blue from the cold, she still tucked the small black snake into her bosom. The snowstorm was too fierce. So the girl and the little black snake took shelter in the mountain god's temple to rest. The incense offerings had dwindled, and the forgotten mountain god had long fallen into chaos. The little black snake gradually woke up, nuzzling the girl's chin with its pointed head. She giggled happily. "Little black snake, do you have a name?" It shook its head, its beady eyes filled with confusion. "Name? What is that?" The little girl exclaimed excitedly. "You can talk, you're actually a snake demon. A name is a person's identity. With a name, you have a home, then you'll be called Louis." I burst out laughing on the side. Who would have thought the mountain god's name would be so casually chosen? The scene shifts quickly, and I watch the little girl grow up day by day. The little snake demon left her and embarked alone on his journey of cultivation. Before leaving, he said, "Wait for me to return, and I'll have the right to protect you." He endured many hardships, struck by lightning, pecked by eagles, beaten by his own kind. He lay on the ground, barely alive, having lost most of his life. Later, he saved a scorpion demon who was also being bullied. He gained a follower. I remembered what Louis had told me 500 years ago. He was the most powerful mountain god. My nose stung, and my vision gradually blurred. Liar, fooling me again. On the day he became a great demon, the black snake eagerly returned with all sorts of gifts to find the little girl. But all he found was a cold, lifeless body, all because her brother couldn't find a wife. Monica was to be exchanged with the village butcher in a marriage trade. She would marry the butcher, and in return, her brother would wed the butcher's sister. She refused, and was beaten to death. Her body was left in the freezing snow. She was so afraid of the cold, yet she turned stiff and blue from it. The black serpent knelt before what was once the mountain god's temple, its eyes crimson as blood. I hate being born as a weak demon with such feeble powers. If only I were stronger, I could protect those I wish to guard. A bolt of heavenly lightning struck before the temple. The black serpent was no longer a demon. He had become the new mountain god, and the first thing he did was to gouge out a piece of his own heart leaf while still alive. Using divine blood and half a lifetime of divine power, he bought a chance for a soul to be reborn. As a result of losing most of his divine power, he reverted to his childhood form. 500 years later, tongue flowers reappeared in this world. She was not a fortunate girl, born into a rather wretched family. Her little brother, at a young age, would deliberately wet the bed, leading to his sister being severely beaten. So Louis stepped in. Precious was only slightly feverish. Louis, however, was struck by lightning for using magic on mortals, losing a scale from the tip of his tail, especially because of the heart-wrenching pain. He was now just a young child. He lay pitifully in the grass, waiting for Tongue Flowers, who was gathering herbs in the heavy rain, to part the thicket. seeing those familiar eyes, he couldn't help but smile. He whispered, "Look, she's still herself." My tears fell into my palm. So it was, the seed planted 500 years ago became our fruit 500 years later. Countless times, he prayed to the heavens, to the divine order, "I am willing to become a stone bridge, enduring 500 years of wind, 500 years of sun, and 500 years of rain, only asking that she walks across it." He waited for me for 500 years. My reincarnation was what he begged for. Before entering 500 years ago, I saw the origins of the past. The only way to save the black serpent now is to stop him from gouging out the heart leaf. I don't know if the course of time changes, whether by some twist of fate, I will still exist 500 years later. I just want to save Lewis. The lotus platform emitted a dazzling golden light. When I opened my eyes again, Tongue Flowers from 500 years ago was locked in the woodshed. Originally, even if she refused, they would have forcibly tied her up and sent her away. It was only after she slashed her own face that the butcher lost interest, and the mother and son beat her to death. When I untied her, she was still unconscious. Fortunately, she was even younger and thinner at that time, while I, having done farm work for a long time, was very strong. I carried her on my shoulder and set fire to their house. The flames soared into the sky, and the thick smoke made it hard to keep one's eyes open. I carried the other Tongue Flowers to the mountain temple. Drenched in sweat, Tongue Flowers slowly regained consciousness, and I handed her the silver I had just stolen from her mother. "Take this silver and leave quickly, never come back again." Perhaps it was blackened by the raging fire. Tongue Flowers didn't notice that my appearance was almost identical to hers. Tears carved 2 trails down her face. She thanked me profusely with tears of gratitude. Her eyes revealed a sense of bewilderment about the future. I held her hand, firmly conveying strength. "I believe in you, and you must believe in yourself. No matter where you are, you can live well." She left. 2 sets of footprints were left in the snow. Perhaps in the future, she and the black snake would meet again, or perhaps never again. Interfering in another's karma always comes at a price, even if that person is me. I noticed my body gradually becoming transparent. Never able to leave this place again, I transformed into a faint shadow, drifting through this world. I saw the villagers who abused Tongue Flowers suffer retribution. Divine punishment descended from the heavens, flooding the village, but the kind-hearted survived. The wicked all perished. I remained in the mountain god's temple, but the black serpent never appeared. I waited for him for 500 years, wandering all the while. Perhaps too much time has passed, so much that the river of memory has begun to blur. I start to fear that one day I might forget the black snake. Forget that someone once waited for me like this for 500 years. Until this day, I wandered to the familiar village. The girl herding cattle sat on the hillside, crying loudly, with a small mole beneath her eyelid. It seems in my memory, I once looked just like that too. A silver-haired youth appeared behind her, offering a piece of candy in his palm. "What are you crying about?" he asked gently. The little girl hiccuped through her tears. "Why is my brother called Precious? But I'm just called Grass. I don't want this name, I want a beautiful one." It was late spring then, and the tongue blossoms had already withered. The silver-haired youth flicked his fingertips lightly. Countless tongue blossoms fluttered like dancing butterflies, swirling to blanket the mountain stream. The verdant mountains are lush, embracing the full splendor of spring. When half the paulownia flowers have fallen, longing returns anew. He softly recited a line of poetry, then turned to smile at the little girl. "From now on, your name will be Tongue Flowers." Okay, having a name means having a home. A tempest rages within my heart, overwhelming and roaring in. As the evening bell tolls, I seem to traverse the void, reaching out to touch the one who has come from afar. The world is turned upside down. An old friend gently knocks at my heart's door, melting away half a lifetime of snow and wind. Tears fall silently into the palm of my hand. Tongue Flowers. My name is Tongue Flowers. The void of dreams collapses with a thunderous crash. I finally remembered who was the first to give me a name. With a name comes a home. Now, I'm going home. When I woke up again, I met a pair of swollen, beady eyes. The scorpion demon cried so much that her eyes grew larger. 500 years is too long. So long that I've been in a daze the whole time. Jack was both shocked and delighted, blowing a snot bubble. "You're awake. Big brother almost chopped me up." Then he was pushed aside. Lewis looked haggard, his whole body gaunt beyond recognition. My hand touched his cheek, my throat tightening. I'm back. Lewis held me tightly, burying his head in my shoulder and sobbing uncontrollably. Tears soaked the clothes. I stroked his hair and patted him comfortingly. The black hair did not return, still silver white in color. Your hair. He held me tightly in his arms, his voice muffled. It's all right. I'm no longer the mountain god. I gasped in shock. And he explained further. Originally, I cultivated myself into becoming the mountain god. After removing the heart leaf, my cultivation greatly diminished. Over the years, I still managed to eliminate some malevolent mountain spirits and wild monsters, which counts as some merit. You traveled back 500 years and got entangled in the karma between the two of us. Originally, you could never return. But I exchanged my position as the mountain god and all the merits I've accumulated over the years to bring you back to my side. I won't be the mountain god anymore, just an ordinary snake demon. I understood and hugged him tightly, my heart aching for him. Lewis couldn't help feeling a bit proud as he said this. He lifted his face, still streaked with tears, and smiled at me. But I'm still a demon, the most powerful snake demon. I burst out laughing. Yes, yes. Just as powerful as the little black snake from 500 years ago. He got so angry he wanted to bite me, but couldn't bring himself to, so he took it out on Jack instead. He gritted his teeth and asked Jack, who was staring intently, in a sinister tone, enjoying the view. I harbored a grudge and wanted to punch Jack. You said something about exchanging hearts, didn't you? Talking nonsense, giving terrible advice. At that time, his intention was to figure out a way to retrieve the heart leaf, but saying it out loud made it sound like he was plotting to harm me. Jack turned back into a scorpion and scurried away with his tail raised. Lewis kissed my lips with satisfaction. Finally, that annoying person is gone. During the month I was unconscious, many things happened in the village. Precious and my father ended up with a broken hand and a broken leg, respectively, after becoming disabled. They could only rely on my mother to take care of them, but she had turned mute, making communication always troublesome. These two grew increasingly dissatisfied and took their frustrations out on her every day. Half a month ago, she went insane, a fire set the house ablaze, and those two couldn't escape, burned to nothing. Due to her mental condition, she was sent to a psychiatric hospital. I shared Lewis's lifespan, and my body grew increasingly healthier. He said he would take me traveling around the world. Jack also clamored to go along. In the end, I had no choice but to agree to this snake and scorpion, on the condition that they mustn't randomly transform into their true forms and scare people. Black snakes and scorpions both really enjoy eating the ice cream I buy. After finishing it, Jack happily rolls on the ground, begging for more. As for Lewis, he pretends to be indifferent on the surface, but secretly takes advantage when I'm not looking to sneak a bite. One lick, then another. Another late spring has arrived. Jack cheered and ran wildly across the hills, chasing after the tits. Lewis and I stood side by side on the ridge, the warm sun shining on our shoulders. He suddenly turned his head with a smile, his silver hair gleaming brilliantly. Will you marry me? This time, there was no little gold. A ring lay quietly in his palm. I secretly observed, humans always use rings for proposals. It seems, I was too foolish the first time, only knowing to take the gold. The ring was a very beautiful design. I put it on and smiled at him. As long as it's you, I'm willing. In a single speck of dust lie 3,000 realms. In half a fleeting moment, 80,000 springs. He clasped my fingers tightly, just like the snake's tail coiled around my ankle back then. 500 years in the blink of an eye. When the tongue flowers half fall, the covered walkway stirs longing. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.